alive again.
Have you ever watched a beehive for a while
Hold that thought.
and noticed all the activity, the coming and going
Jacob's
constantly?
story
Bees leaving the
is
hive,
an excellent
bees going into the
example
hive, flying
of how
around,
the thread of
and
God's
you can see them as they
blessing
disperse, but then they come
runs
back
in
to
strange
the
ways
hive
throughout
again. It's
human
just a
history.
tremendous amount of activity.
And here's the thing.
Hold
There
that
is
thought.
nothing at all about Jacob
Jacob's
that makes him
story
particularly worthy
is an
of that
excellent
blessing
example
by standards of good
of
behavior.
how the thread of God's
The Bible
blessing
even names him
runs
as a
in
trickster,
strange ways
one who
throughout
deceives
human history.
and tricks others in order
And here's
to
the
get
thing.
what
There
desires.
is nothing
Whether that's a
at
blessing
all about Jacob
or a
that
birthright
makes him particularly
or
worthy
progeny
of that
or
blessing
protection.
by standards of good behavior.
So why on earth
The
would God
Bible
choose
even
one
names
such
him
as that to be the
as a
conduit
trickster,
of
one
the
who
blessing
deceives
that God offered
and tricks others in
Abraham
order to gain
through
what
all
he desires.
generations.
Whether that's a blessing
We know that in
or a birthright
Hebrew times,
or
the
progeny.
blessing of a father
or protection.
was usually offered to the oldest
So
son.
why on earth would God
And
choose
of
one
course,
such
there
as
is
that to be the
famous
conduit
story of Jacob
of
and
the
Esau
blessing that God
and the
offered,
resting
starting
of that
with Abraham and
blessing
through all
from
generations?
their father in order
We know
for Jacob
that in
to receive it, even
Hebrew
though
times,
he was the second
The
born.
blessing of a father was usually
But
offered
honestly,
to
there
the
are
oldest
two stories
son.
in the wonderful Hebrew Bible
And of
way
course,
of
there
doing
is
things.
the
There are actually
famous
two
story of
about
Jacob
how
and
the
Esau
blessing went to Jacob
and the
rather
resting
than to
of
Esau.
that
In the first,
blessing
it is Esau's
from
own inability
their father,
to delay
in order for
gratification
Jacob to receive it,
and
even
his
though he
poor
was the
judgment
second
that causes
born.
him to trade his birthright.
But honestly, there are
for
two
a good
stories
meal when
in the
he's
wonderful
very hungry.
Hebrew Bible way of doing
But
things.
in
There are
the
actually
other
two
story,
stories
probably the
about
more
how
famous
the
one,
blessing went
Rebecca,
to Jacob
his
rather than
Jacob
to
and
Esau.
Esau's mother,
In the
plays
first,
a major
it is
role,
Esau's own inability
even
to
though
delay,
Jacob is
to
by no
delay
means
gratification
innocent.
and
Rebecca,
his poor
you see,
judgment
is
that
privy
causes
to a
him to
prophecy that
trade
nobody
his
else in
birthright
Scripture hears, and
for
that
a good
prophecy
meal when he's
is
very hungry.
that of her twin
But in the
sons,
other story, probably the more
younger
famous
will be
one,
the dominant.
Rebecca, his mother, Jacob and
It is
Esau's
also
mother,
told to us in Scripture
plays a major
that
role,
Rebecca favors
even
her
though
second
Jacob is by
son,
no means
and
innocent.
that Isaac, their father,
Rebecca, you see, is
favors
privy
Esau.
to a prophecy that
And finally,
nobody
we are
else
told
in
that
Scripture
Esau
hears, and
took
that
a wife,
prophecy is
not according to
that
his
of her
father's
twin
instructions,
sons, the younger
namely,
will be the dominant.
and that Judith and Esau made
It is
life
also told
bitter
to us in Scripture
for
that Rebecca
Isaac and
favors
Rebecca.
her second son,
Okay, so now I've just told you these
and that
three different
Isaac, their
versions,
father,
kind of why
favors
it is
Esau.
that this family is in turmoil.
And finally, we are
can't you
told
just
that
hear
Esau took
the
a wife,
generations trying to
not
make
according
sense
to his
of why
father's
it is that
instructions,
Jacob had the
Judith,
blessing,
namely,
that line of
and that
blessing
Judith
instead
and
of
Esau make life
And in
bitter
fact, all
for
of this is
Isaac
probably
and Rebecca.
truly a political.
Okay, so now I've just told you these
attempting
three
to
different
explain
versions,
why it
kind
is
of why it
that
is that
Jacob,
this family is in
Israel,
turmoil.
in the
And
long
can't you
run,
just
will
hear
be the dominant
the generations
nation
trying to make
over
sense
Esau's
of why it
kingdom.
is that Jacob had the
Anyway,
blessing, that
we know this
line
part
of
of the story.
blessing
Rebecca
instead of
arranges
Esau.
for Jacob
And in fact,
to go
all
into
of
his
this is
father
probably
wearing
truly
hairy
a political
gloves
myth
because
attempting
Esau
to
is hairy
explain why it
and
is
Jacob is not.
that
And so he goes
Jacob's
into his now blind
Israel
father.
in the
Blind father
long run
reaches out
will be
and
the
offers
dominant
the blessing
nation
to Jacob
over
instead of to
Esau's
Esau.
Edom.
By now we know the relationship between
Anyway,
these siblings.
We
is
know this part of the story. Rebecca
irretrievably
arranges for Jacob
soured.
to
And
go
it's
into
at
his
this point
father
that Jacob must
wearing
leave his
hairy
homeland.
gloves,
He's advised
because
by both
Esau
his
is
mother
hairy
and his father
and Jacob
to
is
go
not.
to his
And so he
uncle's
goes
land
into his
of
now
Haran
blind father.
instead.
Blind father reaches out
Next week
and
we'll hear
offers
a
the
little bit
blessing
more about
to
that
Jacob
piece of the
instead of to
story.
Esau.
But it's
By
on
now
its
we
way
know
from
the
Beersheba
relationship
to
between
Haran,
these siblings
a
is
distance of about
irretrievably
500 miles, so it's about a
sour.
journey.
And
What?
it's at this point that Jacob must
on a
leave
certain
his
night,
homeland.
In
He's
a
advised by
certain
both his mother
place,
and his father
a
to
vision
go to his
comes to
uncle's
him in
land
his
of
dream.
Haran instead.
Here,
Next week we'll
a
hear
ladder
a little bit
was
more
set up
about
on
that
the
piece
earth,
of the story.
its top reaching
But
to
it's
the
on his
heavens.
way from Beersheba to Haran,
And here,
a distance of about
messengers of
500
God were
miles,
going
so it's
up
about a
and
month's
down.
journey by
And
foot.
here, Yahweh was standing
That
over
on a
and
certain
against
night,
him.
in a
And Yahweh
certain
said, I am
place,
Yahweh, the God of
a
Abraham,
vision
your father,
comes to him
the
in his
God of
dreams.
Isaac. And God
Here,
proceeded to
a
repeat
ladder was
the
set
same
up on the
promise
earth,
that he had given
its top
to Abram,
reaching to the heavens.
and the promise that
And here,
he was going to watch
messengers
over,
of
that
God were
was
going
to
up
watch
and
over
down.
Jacob until
And
Jacob
here,
came
Yahweh
back.
was standing
his
over and
parents'
against him. And Yahweh
Now,
said,
Jacob's
I am Yahweh, the
reaction
God of
upon
Abram, your father,
waking
the
from
God
this
of
dream
Isaac.
is first to say,
And God proceeded
"Oh
to
my goodness,
repeat
I was
the same promise that he
unaware
had given
that
to
God
Abram,
was in this place.
and the promise that
God was in this
he
place,
was going to
surely
watch
I didn't
over,
know
that
it,
God
not
was going to
know it.
watch over Jacob
And that might lead
until
us to
Jacob
wonder how his
came back
behavior would have been
to his
different
parents'
if
land.
He did know that
Now,
God
Jacob's
was in that
reaction
place.
upon
Would
waking from
he
this
have
dream
stayed awake,
is first to say,
looking for God?
oh my goodness,
that
I
have
was
been the behavior?
unaware
And
that
sometimes
God
this
was
is
in this
exactly
place.
the paradox of
God was in
revelation
this place, but
for
surely
all
I
of
didn't
us.
know it, not
That
know it.
sometimes it's exactly when
And
we
that
are
might lead us to
looking for
wonder
God
how his
that our
behavior would
gets
have
in the
been
way of
different if he
seeing
did
God.
know
Whereas other
that God
times
was
when
in
we
that
are
place.
least sensitive,
Would
least
he have
attentive
stayed
to God's
awake,
presence,
looking for
that
God?
we discover
Would that have
through
been the
something
behavior?
that has happened.
And
that God
sometimes
has
this is
in fact
exactly the
been with us.
paradox of revelation for
To be
all
sure,
of us. That sometimes
Jacob is
it's exactly when
oblivious
we
to
are
the
looking
ways
for
in
God
which
that our behavior gets
his
in the way of
deceptions,
seeing
his
God.
desires, his
There's
exile, and
other
his
times
return
when we are
will be
least
part of fulfilling
sensitive,
the
least
promises.
attentive to God's presence,
And
that we
it is
discover
also
through something that has
probably
happened
important for us to
that
remember
God has in
this
fact
is, after all,
been with us.
Isaac's son.
To be
Isaac,
sure,
the one who was parted by his
Jacob is
father
oblivious to
up
the
a
ways
place
in
of
which
sacrifice.
his deceptions,
And so
his
there is
desires, his
drama in the
exile, and his
family
return
already.
will be
Jacob
part of
knows
fulfilling the
that
promises.
blessings come with their own
And
terrors.
it is also probably important for us to remember that this is, after all,
Jacob is also
Isaac's
sent away
son.
with
Isaac, the
Isaac's
one who was
hope.
parted
May the
by
God
his
of
father
Abram bless you.
up to a place
Not
of
may
sacrifice.
your God bless you, but may the God
And
of
so
Abram
there is
bless
some
you.
trauma in this
And
family
God
already.
himself
Jacob
says
knows
to Jacob,
that
I
blessings
am the God of your
come
father
with their
and your
own
grandfather,
terrors.
but never says, I am your God. Even so,
Jacob is
there
also
a promise
sent
to watch
away
over.
with Isaac's
So Jacob
hope.
wakes to
May
this
the God of
holiness,
Abram bless you.
experiences God's presence,
Not may your God
hears
bless
God's
you, but may the
voice,
God of Abram bless you.
and even so, is
And God
not yet
self
convinced.
says
And so
to
Jacob's
Jacob,
response
I
is
am the
to
God
say,
of your father and your grandfather,
if God
but never
is
says, I am your God.
with me, then I
Even
will.
so, there is this promise
If
to watch
God is
over.
with me,
So
then
Jacob
I
wakes to
will
this
do certain
holiness,
things.
experiences God's presence,
So it is
hears
true.
God's voice,
This is
and
not
even
yet
so is
Jacob's
not
God.
yet
It will
convinced.
take
And so
another
Jacob's
intimate
response is to
encounter
say,
for Jacob
if
to claim
God
God
is with me,
as God, as
then
Jacob's own God.
I will. If
So we have this
God is with
unlikely hero in this story,
then
one
I
who has
will
sort of a
do
distant
certain
relationship
things.
with God, one who has stolen
So
a
it is
birthright,
true.
one who will spend a lifetime
This
in
is not
trickery and
yet
deception. So
Jacob's
why again
God.
is God using this
It will
trickster?
take another intimate
Why?
encounter for Jacob
Maybe part of
to
what we're
claim
really
God
supposed to learn
as God, as
is
Jacob's
that
own
God's
God.
own character.
So we have this unlikely
possess
hero
some of
in this
these
story,
same
one who has sort of a
character
distant
tendencies.
relationship with God, one who has stolen
And
a birthright,
it may be wise
one who
for
will
us
spend
not
a
to
lifetime
view
in trickery and
Jacob
deception.
as the
So why
protagonist
again is
in
God
this
using this
story.
trickster?
He is more like an anti-hero. It is rather God who is the
Maybe
protagonist
part of what
in
we're
this
really
story.
supposed to learn is that God's
Finally,
own
let's dwell on
character
this image of
may
the ladder
possess some of these
for a
same
moment. The ladder
trickster
that is set
tendencies.
on the earth and reaching
And
toward
it
the
may be
sky.
wise for us not to
So
view
this is an
Jacob
image which
as
is
the
so
protagonist
rich for
in this
dreamers and for
story.
artists.
He is more like an
The ladder
anti-hero.
on
It is
which
rather
the
God
angels
who is the
ascend and
protagonist in
descend
this story.
is kind of an ironical
Finally,
and
let's
mechanical
dwell
prop,
on this
because
image of the
surely in
ladder
other places
for
we
a
hear
moment.
that
The
angels
ladder
are
that
meant
is set
to
on
fly,
the earth
right?
and
But
reaching
still,
toward the
point
sky.
here is to
Now, this
show
is
us
an
this
image which is
plethora
so
of
rich for
activity
dreamers
that
and for
God
artists.
sets loose
The ladder
in
on
order
which
to
the
be
angels
present to human
ascend
beings.
and descend
back
is
to the
kind of
bees.
an ironical
The enduring
and
image that we
mechanical
can
prop,
take
because
away from
surely
this
in other
is the
places we
tremendous
hear that
amount
angels
of
are meant
activity
to
going
fly,
to
right?
and from
But
God
still,
in
the
order
point
to be
here
present
is
and
to
communicating
show us
with
this
us.
plethora of activity that God sets loose in order to
will
be
not
present to
note
human beings.
what we, from
Back
our
to the
perspective,
bees.
can.
The enduring
vision
image that we can
is
take
of the
away from
unleashing
this is the
of this
tremendous
very
amount of
universal
activity going
promise
to and
that
from
one
God
message
in
comes
order to be
to
present
Jacob.
and
One voice
communicating
comes
with
to Jacob.
us.
But in the meanwhile, angels are busy coming back and forth
Jacob
from heaven. And so
will not
they
note
are going up
what we,
places.
from our
So
perspective,
even while
can.
this Bible
That the
story
vision
repeatedly give us
is of
very
the unleashing
specific revelations
of this
to
very
specific
universal
people.
promise.
As
That
time
one
unfolds,
message
discover
comes to
the
Jacob. One
universal
voice comes to
promise
Jacob. But in the meanwhile,
all of
angels are
creation.
busy coming back and forth from heaven.
God is
And
busy
so they are going
very
other
busy.
places.
making
So
sure
even
that
while
all of
the
us
Bible stories
will
repeatedly
receive
give
the
us very
promises
specific
that God has
revelations to very specific
revelation
people,
comes
as time
specifically
unfolds, we
in our Bible
discover
stories
the universal
comes
promise
to us
to
all.
all of creation. God is busy, very busy, making sure that all of us will receive the promises that God has given. Revelation comes specifically in our Bible stories, but it comes to us all.